And it's as simple as that. I'm not going to go through any more details with regards to that. It's just a case of systematically working through the data and then creating a table within Excel. Absolutely best of luck. Sure, you'll do absolutely great. And then we'll move on to AC 2.3, which is our next one. Take care. Hello and welcome to CIPD Bitesize. This is AC 2.3. This is the last question of the 5002 unit evidence-based practice. That last question, the final hurrah, the last bit that we need to do. And for this particular question, we're going to be looking at task 2, table 2, which is 2.3. Table 2 contains evaluation data from 42 employees who attended a recent learning and development activity. Sue would like you to review the feedback and identify patterns, themes, or trends that might occur and make recommendations based on your findings. So, what Sue wants you to do is interpret data and make some recommendations. Now, I will point out one thing here which is really important, which is you need references, you need citations, because it tells you when it's not needed. So when you're making recommendations based in evidence is better than recommendations just off the top of your head looking at some data. Now with this, the data analysis review with recommendations is 1,000 words. So table 2 contains evaluation feedback from 32 employees who recently attended a learning and development. She'd like you to review the feedback, identify patterns, so that's your interpretation of the data, themes and trends that might occur, and make recommendations based on this. Data analysis is 1,000 words. So you do need to put some detail into this. If you think your average question in task 1 was 414 words, for this you are really going to have to sort of interpret. You are really going to have to write a recommendation, and that recommendation's got to have some depth to it. Because if you're 10% under the word count, probably going to refer, because we need to see a level of data. You need to see a level of depth. You need to see a level of detail behind this. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at the data. Okay. This is the evaluation data from the L&D activity for Technoverna. Number 1 is fully agree, 2 is agree, 3 is not sure, 4 is disagree, 5 is strongly disagree. Now, if it were me and I was interpreting this data, the first thing that I would look at is I would look at the 5s, what stands out. And then I'd look at the 1s and I'd look at what stands out. So as you can see from the 5s at the end of the session, the set learning outcomes were achieved. Strongly disagree is really high there. I was able to engage in meaningful questions and answering on the topics being discussed. Disagree, 27 and 5, that's really high for disagreeing there. So that would stand out to me. When I look at the fully agree, a couple of things that stand out is the facilitator was clearly knowledgeable about the topics. My learning preferences were considered prior to the learning activity. Not overly high. The commencement of the facilitator provided a clear set of objectives. Okay, so that has a high degree. Again, these are the things that I would interpret from it. And then start to build what you want, what your recommendations will be on this. So if you think about it from a, let's say, for example, it was a team building session. We'll just think about an L&D activity. If someone at the end of the session saying whether set learning outcomes achieved, well, that means we're not functioning. So again, just think about how you'd interpret it and then think about what you'd want to do from it. Resources used were of good quality, majority agree. Facilitator provided clear, yeah. I was able to engage meaningfully, really low. The learning linked to my performance target. People don't seem to know. I was able to employ the knowledge, skills, and behaviors into my work. People don't seem to know what. So when we go back to the question, review the feedback, identify patterns, themes, and trends that might be occurring. What do you see from the training? What do you see from the facilitator? Were they good enough? What things might be occurring? Is it too generic? Is it not specific enough? And then make recommendations based on your findings. look at the data as if you have been asked to look at it in anything else, and then how you would work with that organization. So again, let's sort of have a bit of a breakdown, a bit of a study plan for this one. So you've got a data analysis review. So my first action point is to break down the data. My second point is to make recommendations. Now there's a cheeky S there, which is recommendations. So you need to recommend multiple things in terms of, patterns and things that might be occurring, and make recommendations based on your findings. You also need references and citations. So what recommendations can you make that have an evidence base behind it? This is one of those questions where I could give you some recommended reading, but it's about your interpretation and what you want to find from that data. So look at evidence, so far you're looking at evidence-based practice, you've done research and development. This is feedback. This is qualitative feedback. And how do you use that to make better decisions moving forward? What would you do with these staff members to get further feedback? What would you do? What would you want to do in terms of making things go forward? What changes would you want to make? If this training wasn't specific enough, how do we make it more specific? How do we make it smarter? What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? What's the how are we going to implant this into the future development of the organization? What should we be doing after these training sessions so that we're always taking one step forward, and every time we do training it gets more impactful, it has more of an outcome, it has more of an impact as people work? That's what they want you to think about when doing this particular unit. So build on it, think on it further, take a step forward with it in terms of how do we improve every element? Unless you look at this L&D feedback and you think everything's perfect, how can we improve every element? What 3 elements do we need to address first to make strides of improvement? What 3 elements are okay for the moment? What do you change? What do you stop? What do you continue? These are the questions that I normally, when we get feedback on our courses and we get feedback on what we're delivering, the thing I look at is what's good, what do people like, and then look at what don't people like, and then we try and sort of take the things people don't like and take a step forward. We try and take things that people do like and keep them and improve them in ways that we think would have more beneficial connection to them. The reason Bitesize exists is because we did short contextualized videos called Let's Talk HR, linking things into the real world environment. Now people liked it, but they were also getting stuck on the questions. So we introduced the contextualized videos and these short bite-sized videos, and now we've taken massive steps forward. And the success rate of our learners has increased exponentially. And people seem to like the bite-sized videos, so we continue to do these every time the assessments change. So we took an element that we had at the launch, which was Let's Talk HR, which was contextualizing topics and theories and structures within the course, and then we twisted that into a very specific video per AC, creating analogies and fictitious scenarios and recommended readings and breaking down the question into its component parts, because our longer videos, our overview videos, got a really positive traction and people really liked them and they wanted them per AC. So that's when we started creating them. We took elements people liked and we made them better. That's what you need to think about when you come to this. Absolutely best of luck with this. I'm sure you'll do absolutely great, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.